This segment's about pond construction. For those that's thinking about putting a pond in, I want to point out some of the good ideas I've had and the constructor had, and I want to point out some of the bad ideas that I regret. We started years ago wanting to put a pond in back here. We've got kind of gravelly, sandy soil conditions around the community here, and I was told by some contractors that it would never work out here because of what the sand and gravel content is. So I was lucky enough to work with a journeyman machine repair, a very nice person named Ned Glass, and he says, well, my son puts ponds in, and he says he puts them in for doctors and lawyers. He says they're pretty nice ponds. So I got hold of his son, Bill Glass from the St. Mary's area. He came out, and I had estimates anywhere from $6,000 to Bill's estimate of around $10,000 for it. The $6,000 estimates, all they had was a bulldozer was going to come in and dig a hole in the backyard and spread the dirt around. Bill told me his process. His process is wherever you see water now and stones, he dug out 10 feet beyond that everywhere. Down below, he dug 10 feet deeper than the depth. When he dug things out, he had big pans and big dozers. He put the good dirt on one pile, he put the clay on another pile. So after he went and cleared out that excess area all over, he went to the clay pile, and every bottom and every side is 10 feet thick with a clay core around it and underneath it. And he did excellent work. Ned raised a fine son and brought him up with the right work ethics, and Ned was a fine man, and again, he gave me a good lead here. So when they brought the clay back in, we had a couple springs that popped up, and Bill said that, well, if they came through that clay, there's enough head pressure on them springs that they're going to be a good thing for your pond, and they're going to feed fresh water into it. And I find that we never have a pond loss unless it's a drought system. But we got all of our barn tiles and house tiles going in, filling the pond, and it came out really nice. Now, some of the bad idea I had was this big beach. We had family reunions here with 80 people and lots of little kids. And you go with a big beach, you think, well, that's really nice. Well, you can see there's a lot of maintenance here. You can see the weeds growing up. I would put in a 1/3 the size of this beach. From here on over would be beach. The rest would be that stone material on the border of the pond. The maintenance is really high on a beach. So go with a small beach. You're not going to play volleyball on this anyway, and I don't know why I built it this big, but the big mistake was the big beach. I'm going to look at my notes as I go through this. The other mistake I made was the first time I put stones around the pond to stop erosion, I didn't put enough on there. Now, Bill said this is all you need. Well, Bill was 100% right on about everything, except that I found I wanted more stones because the stones weren't heavy enough and thick enough, and they will go down your bank and they will disappear from your outer edges. So I brought a second load in, and I had them put, I wouldn't doubt, a foot higher everywhere, and right around the ground level I brought another foot up ridge, and you can see most of that is down to about 6 inches above the ground already over just 10 years. This pond is 20 years old, I would say, right now, something like that. But bring in extra stone, because if you're like me, you're not happy with what you had at first, and you're going to bring it in anyway, and build it up around the edge at the top next to your yard, so that when you're walking on it, I spray to keep this clean. Now, my son doesn't believe in chemicals, so he uses just aeration and amures and algae eaters, but it doesn't do as good a job as I did. I use Carmax, and I would do 1/8 section at a time, put it in a sock, drag it on a pole, let it get around the edge, dissolve out. and just do an eighth at a time. And if we were going to have a reunion, I would always have at least 4 weeks, in between before people came out and swam in it. And that pretty much, by then it was neutralized and pretty well inert. So I used the Carmax. It was a good product. I could go out 5 feet in this water here and look down and see my toes. That's how clean this pond was. And the New York City people and East Coast people that came that didn't like ponds, even they dove in and had fun without any kind of comments about pond water or anything. All their kids were in it. They kept it real clean. Now, again, I used to take a rake and rake my beach underwater here to get it clean for them and everything. A lot of extra work, but I enjoyed it on hot days, being to your waist, up to your shoulders, raking out there. Another thing about the beach is build it smaller, but go have them dig a deeper around where you're going to put your sand. Bring in twice the sand you planned, because it will go down. And right now, rainwater will take it down. You can see a big gully over there where the yard rain comes through and erodes it out. So dig it deeper, put in twice the sand, and where you're going out, you don't have to worry about a lot of sand out there, because this sand will be out there in just a few years and it will fill itself out. It might be a mucky the first year or two. Don't worry about it. Put your sand where you need it up here, and you won't have to fill it up at every 5-10 years with the load. A good idea I had is I put a concrete border for grass delineation so it doesn't grow out here. Now, this will clean up good with just a rake 1 hour, and these will all be gone because the roots don't have a plants to seed in anywhere. The roots just come out so quick. You just take a rake to this one time and all this grass will be out of here. But this grass, or this grass border, concrete border, really makes it nice for mowing and keeping the grass from growing into your beach and keeping control over it. It's kind of like the rubber I used at home and my Crown landscaping edges. It really works wonders on grass delineation. The other good idea I had, and glad that I did, was I put concrete steps down to the end of the dock. The last step, you're up to your shoulders in water, and but so there's probably about 6 steps going down out to the water. Makes it nice when you're done swimming. You can float over here, stand up, walk up these steps. You don't have sand on your feet from coming out of the beach. It washes your sand off. But these steps were a good idea. They go all the way down there, and the more people you have on them, the cleaner they look. But here, the other good idea I had, Judy, if you come out here, some ideas are strictly safety. From this point, circular out to those big rocks, we built with the same type stone about a 4-foot wide ridge, about 3 feet under the high level of the water, that was hard on your feet. If kids come out, this would be about 5 feet deep out here. If the kids came out, teenagers start walking out here, or if young kids came out, when they would start coming out here and getting brave, that stones, they wouldn't want to walk on it. Guess what? They turn around and come back in where it was safe. This is a great safety factor. That stony ridge that's out here, that lines the where your beach stops or your sand stops, it will inhibit kids that shouldn't be out in the deep water from crossing that stony, because it's sharp on your toes and your feet, and they will come back in. The other safety thing, Bill suggested I put, where you see that pipe out there, Bill suggested that I put pea gravel out there, and that will keep the fish from spawning on the beach and bothering people. So we put pea gravel in there. I would say it comes this way 40 feet, that way 30 feet, back that way 60, 70 feet, up this way about 30 feet, and it's about 3 feet under the level of the high water. So when you're out on that pea gravel, you're up a little bit below your waist. Now, that was a great thought about keeping the fish away, But when you have 80 people at a reunion, I guarantee you, you're going to have 1 or 2 teenagers showing off that they're going to show how they're going to swim across this pond. This is a 1-acre pond. So I announced at the reunion to all the kids that kind of look like they might have a little streak in them, that if you get in trouble, you look for that post, and 40, 60 feet away, it's only 3 feet deep out there. It is the greatest comfort, safety-wise, as a host to a party that there is. You don't have to worry about all of a sudden somebody panicking and diving in and people screaming. They just go right to that low spot. The best safety thing on this pond. And it takes away that risk that you have of somebody thinking they can swim across the pond. They have a refuge they can get to and be safe. So that is probably the best idea on this pond. Now on the docks here, I want to talk about them. We took a handheld auger while the pond was still empty, and where you see these plastic pipes underneath here, we augered down into the clay about 4 feet, and I pounded about a 4-foot, 3-foot fence post down in there. Then I put my pipe down, plastic pipe, then I filled it with concrete. And these have not moved 1 inch anywhere since then. So these are all concrete filled pipes going down into the clay with cement in them, and it's quite an anchor for this dock. Now the dock has got 6x6 pressure treated wood as a base everywhere, nice sized bases, and you can see the 2 of them sticking out over there on that piece. And then we use 2x10 pressure treated wood, and even, you know, you got to stain it every once in a while, make it look nice. But my son's a little bit, how should I say, stoic, more stoic than I am. So he's perfectly happy with this. But every board is solid. You use your star driver, torque-driven deck screws. I haven't had to replace all the hundreds that's in there. I don't think I've had to deal with 1 or 2 that's worked its way out. And so you build a dock, build it strong material, give it a good base. The other thing on my pond, this is a flagpole system, the same as I have in my front yard, with plastic PVC pipe. He just takes the pipe down, has the flag high up on a bearing just like I do. Right now he's not flying it. Evidently it got tattered and he took it down. And but that's another flagpole. We've got hose in here that we put umbrellas up for people that they can sit out here in the middle of the day and have a beer or 2 or a pop or 2 and enjoy it out here without getting baked. Again, you'll see my son uses an aerator and hammers the fish to algae eaters. That just can't keep up in the hot summer with algae. So this isn't bad, and the wind's blowing it over to this side, but most of the pond looks good. You can see our drain pipes coming out. When I built this barn, there's the electric wires coming out, and I thought if we ever wanted to put a fountain out there or anything, I put this under the concrete, so in case we did want to go with those fountain lights or something, that we have this hooked up and the wiring accessible, and we're ready for it. The last aspect of this pond, every pond has an overflow pipe, and we put one in here. It's connected to the fill tile, and that works nice. Now this is my own invention here, my idea. 3 feet down, I've got a large 4-inch plastic drain valve. And what this is for is every October would drain this pond down to the base of those stones. Now my thinking is, you take the moisture away, that takes away the ability for weeds and algae to have a source of moisture. So we would drain it down and to the base of our rocks, and that would let that all dry out every winter all the way around. And I think that really did help our weed growth and our algae growth. Now you have to put your face in the water to turn that valve because it's about 3 feet down in October, so you're going to get a little wet. And but to me, this idea is worth thinking about too. And then in the spring, it would be where the valve is, so you didn't have to put your face in the water. You just get your feet wet, close the valve, and then spring rains, and we do pump water in here when we want to get it filled up from our well, and you just bring it back up to height again. So this idea here, I think, is worth it. Thinking about an extra drain, it will drain out into the field tile too and drain away. So the pond, again, most important things, get the safety factors in. The ridge that goes from the end of the dock around to the big stones keeps kids from climbing out to where it's deep. This pond was designed at 14 feet deep at the deepest end out here. Probably averages 11-12 feet overall on the pond. But the safety factor of the pea gravel underground island out there for safety, those things, if you don't do anything else, help somebody else not get themselves into trouble. Put the pea gravel underground island in, put the rocky ridge around your beach to discourage kids from wading out into the deep end. Thank you.
Now go.
One other note, the wind's kicking up, so I hope that it isn't making noise on the camera. But we have in here now, we have bass that's been in here forever. We caught one the other day, it was 18 inches long. We have tilapia in here. We have grass eaters, algae eaters in here. And I think my son put perch in here for the heck of it. Now, I don't think it's deep enough for the perch, but if they make it, that's great. But one thing you don't want in here, especially if you're a floater like I am on a raft, air mattress, is bluegill and crappie. They're a nuisance fish, and they will come up and nibble on your toes and nibble at you, nibble at a black mole spot you have on your skin. Bluegills are nice, they taste good and everything, but if you plan on swimming and floating, keep the bluegills out, the crappie out, and stick with the bass. I've never been disturbed in 20 years on a bass coming up. I might have been disturbed once when something caught my toe, but now the other thing is turtles will incorporate into your pond too. You think it's a piece of nature that you like to see, they're pretty, but I generally will pick them up, put them in a bucket, take them down the road a half mile and let them loose somewhere and let them go on their way, because if it's a snapping turtle, I've never had anybody bitten by it, but it's to me, don't think you're a nature lover and you want to see your turtles in there. If you have a chance to move them out. They will populate, and who knows what kind of trouble. Another interesting story, it was years ago, my son had a pet snake, illegally a garter snake, and he would feed it these feeder fish, goldfish. Well, the snake got away from him in the house, which is another story in itself. No harm came from it. In fact, we didn't have bugs around our house for a long time. It was eating bugs everywhere. And we finally found it and we got it out of the house. But when he lost the snake, he threw a handful of feeder fish in here, goldfish. And that was in the fall. The next spring we came out and we saw these big golden glistening shadows out there. So what the heck is that stuff? Those goldfish populated so heavily that there was thousands of them out here. And of course the know-it-all said, well, you're going to have to drain your pond to get rid of all of them. Well, what we did was we went and got a 10-foot by 10-foot net, and two boys on one end, each had an end, my wife each had an end, and we'd throw fish food out there. We'd net these things by the hundreds and dump them on the shore. And eventually, between doing that, we actually had people that wanted to come out for their little fish ponds in their yard and get them and stuff. But eventually, fishing them out like that, and the bass eating them, they disappeared themselves. So when somebody says you'll have to drain that whole pond, it's just another know-it-all that don't know anything. It took a little work, but we got rid of them. Funny story, but it was an experience we had. So if you have something like a population like that, get yourself a 10-foot by 10-foot net, throw some fish food in the middle, let them come out and swoop them up and carry them to the bank.
Remember when they were stuck in the ice when we were ice skating and we'd trip over them?
Oh yeah, Judy just told me another funny story. That winter we'd be out here ice skating all over the place, and you could look down in the ice and here you'd see a goldfish every once in a while that got frozen in out there, and you could see them in the ice. But that was only one winter, and then by I would say beginning of next summer we had it under control. But interesting experience, and maybe if it happens to you, you'll know how to handle it too. But the ice skating is something that was wonderful. We took a drill out, and if it had to be at least 6 inches deep of ice before we did any ice skating on it. But it will tear you up if you're a 60-year-old guy playing hockey with a teenager. He will body check you and you will go down. And just, you turn 60, leave the ice skates on the rack somewhere. Don't bother with them, because your kids will teach you a lesson on them. So
you gonna tell them about your pillows around your knees and your elbows?
Yeah, I started ice skating with numerous pillows on my knees, my elbows, my butt. Looked like the Pillsbury Doughboy and Ghostbusters out there with all the white stuff around me. Motorcycle helmet on because I split my eyelid open and bled all over on one time, and you try to keep up with the kids, but you just got to come to your senses and just say to yourself, hey, them kids are out to hurt you. Don't go out there with them. So but yeah, interesting stories, and the pond has many memories with it, and many days of enjoyment. 95-degree weather. It's constantly, only 2 or 3 days out of the year, I would say it was like a bathtub. Most days you go out, you cringe when it hits you here, you cringe when it hits you here, you cringe when it hits you here, but once you're in, 5 minutes later, you don't want to get out. That's a pond experience there too. So very enjoyable, glad we did it. My son brings his friends over for 2 or 3 parties every summer. They all thoroughly enjoy it. We have relatives and friends that come out fishing. We catch and release here. We have tilapia in here. I told my wife if her brother comes out, let him clean a couple of tilapias and see if he likes the taste of them. But we actually encourage catch and release here just so we keep our population high. I think I'm done talking about the pond.
Say goodbye.
Bye.